In old science fiction movies, the 21st century was pictured as a time where everyone would be driving flying cars, communicating with holographic versions of their friends, eating laboratory-grown food, or using anti-gravity devices. Although the vast majority of those things didn't happen, there was one amazing technology that was developed: making meat without raising animals. In fact, it was one of Churchill's lasting predictions. Back in the 1930s, Winston Churchill projected that in 50 years, we shall escape the absurdity of growing a whole chicken in order to eat the breast or wing by growing these parts separately under a suitable medium. But how do you grow a chicken breast without, the chicken? Let's break the technology down a little. The first thing we need to understand is how animals make meat. It's the same way all of our bodies grow. We're all made up of a bunch of cells which multiply as we develop and grow as we get older. This is what allows us to go from a baby to an adult, and it's a pretty established part of biology. Even if it leads to the unfortunate side effects of parents needing to post pictures of their babies every day, as if it's their full-time job. Making meat without an animal involved is actually the same process. They get some cells from an animal to start off, which they can do in a relatively harmless way, then create an environment that enables them to grow and multiply like they normally would. This allows the cells to grow and differentiate without having to raise a whole animal. To understand how this crazy thing happens, we need to learn a bit more about cells. So, all cells in a body start out as stem cells, which are cells that can turn into any type of cell in the body through a process called differentiation. Stem cells, therefore, become more specialized cells. They change in their appearance, their level of activity, their region of localization, how they respond to their surroundings, and how they communicate with other cells. Think of this process of differentiation as the process of graduating from high school. As students graduate and go on to different paths in life, some will go straight to work, some will go to trade school, some will go to university, some will choose to travel the world, some will move to France, and you'll never hear from them again, etc., etc. You start to divide more in terms of what you do, who you talk to, where you are, and so on. And then, with more time as you stay in your field or move to a different field, you become even more specialized as you develop a very specific set of skills, like learning the most efficient way to fix a jammed stapler. So, scientists take stem cells from muscle tissue, proliferate them so that they have more than just a few cells to work with, and then allow them to differentiate into the fibers that later will become muscle tissue. This is super cool because a single stem cell sample from a cow can make 80,000 quarter pounders. The USDA says that the average American eats 2.4 burgers a day of meat. So that one stem cell sample can be grown to feed you and 33,333 of your closest friends at an intimate burger-only picnic. So what's the point of all this? Well, as I said, this lets us grow meat without raising a whole animal. Animals' bodies aren't designed as meat-making machines. They're designed to fulfill the needs of the animal's life and create a healthy and strong body. Just like how our bodies grow and develop muscles, support our brain function, allow us to move around, and also give us the ability to text our ex and the cognition to decide that that's a bad idea. But I digress. Because of this, raising animals is super inefficient. When you think about it, it's a process that, even just on a calorie level, produces less calories than it takes in with the amount of food animals need to grow. This isn't to mention the many other side effects of using up a lot of natural resources, creating severe deforestation and habitat loss, generating huge amounts of GHG emissions, erode soil, and so on. There are many estimates of how much animal agriculture contributes to GHG emissions, ranging from 18% to 51%, but the bottom line is that it is a huge contributor. Let's also think about this from a health perspective. At first, that doesn't sound right. Because if we're creating the same products, shouldn't it have the same effect on our bodies than current meat does? There's some conceptualizing that as the technology improves, we'll be able to modify the product to have less of things like cholesterol and saturated and trans fat, but we'll wait to discuss those advances as they happen. There are, however, some very distinct health benefits from cultivated meat as it stands. This falls largely under the categories of foodborne illness and antibiotic resistance. You've probably heard of foodborne illness, even if the idea doesn't sound familiar, like salmonella on eggs or E. coli poisoning, for example. These are two of the more well-known fecal pathogens on animal products. And yes, you heard me right when I said fecal. These bacteria come from feces and are on these products because that's part of what comes with raising a whole animal. And the scary thing is that foodborne illness globally is getting worse. This is because of a few reasons based on our interactions with animals. Firstly, we're eating a ton more animal products globally, so the chances of this happening are just getting larger. More than that, we're also doing factory farming more than ever before. This means that more and more animals are being raised together. You know how when a sibling gets sick, so everyone tries to avoid them and hide in their rooms until they get better, except for the parent who is obligated to take care of whoever it is? It's like that. But imagine you have over 1,000 siblings and no one has their own room. In other words, these conditions are just much better for increasing the transmission of viruses. Let's bring this to some real-world examples. We're all likely most familiar with the COVID pandemic. Scientists agree that this is caused by humans' interactions with animals, but this isn't the first time this has happened, and it's not going to be the last. The SARS pandemic, which was caused by a very similar virus, was also caused by the consumption of animals. In this case, it was Himalayan palm civets. HIV and Ebola are thought to have originated through the consumption of bushmeat. The Nipah virus and swine flu were also caused by consumption of animals, and the deadliest flu in the last century, the 1918 flu, is believed to have been caused by an H1N1 virus that originated in a chicken farm in the US. This phenomenon is not new, and it's growing at astonishing rates. This brings me to my other point, antibiotic resistance. To try and prevent all these animals from getting sick, farmers will often give all animals shots of antibiotics even when they aren't sick. Over time, this actually causes the medicines to get less effective through antibiotic resistance. This happens when bacteria are exposed to the same antibiotics over time, and some begin to evolve mechanisms that prevent the antibiotic from killing them. This makes some of the bacteria not susceptible to the drugs, while the ones that are susceptible die out. This only leaves behind the newly evolved bacteria that are no longer affected by the drug. This is increasing globally at an alarming rate, and if the medicine gets less effective anywhere, it gets less effective everywhere. Bottom line, the science behind this innovation is not only super interesting and novel, but it also has the power to address some of the world's biggest problems. We need more scientists to be working on the technology, both in the academic and business world, to bring about these advancements fast so they can become globally, commercially available everywhere. Because not only can they give us the ability to eat great food that brings us into the sci-fi world of tomorrow, but addresses the challenges of today.